Mayor, at 6 p.m. It is a public workshop. It's not a formal town council workshop, but we are recording. Did you want to kick it off or you just want me to go ahead and proceed?
I'll go ahead and kick it off, Robert. Give me half a second here. All right, we'll go ahead and call to order our workshop here for August 2nd, 2021. It's 6 p.m. As Robert said, we are recording tonight. I know we'll have probably quite a bit of public input, so I'll just remind everyone to we'll recognize everyone. Everybody can raise their hands, and that way everybody can be heard, and try not to step on top of each other, and make sure that we have the opportunity to listen to everyone's input. So I appreciate that tonight. So we'll go ahead and begin and start with our, let's just start with the pledge real quick, and then we'll go ahead and begin our discussion items. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you all. We've got 2.5 discussion items tonight. We're going to look at our food truck night, anticipated start date of August 27th, 2021. Go ahead and begin with that. This is a carryover from our budget meeting where we had some council discussion on whether we felt it appropriate to go forward with food trucks with some of the numbers that we're seeing in terms of COVID and some of the resurgence, and how we may want to handle that. So I think that since our discussion, we definitely have seen continued uptick. So that is a concern. But again, I want to make sure that we allow council to weigh in on that decision. I've got the most recent numbers that just came in. So this is for Orange County. This is from the Florida Department of Health. Orange County 14-day rolling positivity rate is 17.97 or 18%. We were at a 63% vaccination rate for those individuals who are over 12. Sunday, our single day positivity rate was 21.3%. So we definitely are seeing continued uptick, along with some concern at some of the healthcare facilities. Advent Health has basically stopped all of their non-required surgeries or procedures. So I'm expecting we'll see the same from Orlando Health. They may have a little bit more capacity. I'm not exactly sure. There was not a big comment on that. So at this point, I'd like if council could weigh in on their feelings. We want to make sure that we're fair to everybody who wants to participate in the food trucks and all of those trucks. So if they're not able to participate here, if they are able to participate somewhere else, we want to give them every opportunity. I'll open it up for council at this time.
Just a quick question. Reimbursables or revenue from the food trucks, is that guaranteed from the town, or is it as the revenue they generate?
I believe it's as the revenue they generate. I'll allow Robert. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, they charge $150 a spot, and there's typically between 15 and 18 trucks. So there's no loss to the town. We can cancel the entertainment and the stage in time enough before the 4th Friday.
And the entertainment and stage is already aligned for the 27th?
Yes, it's the Down Brothers, who we're all familiar with, and the stage as well. They're going to be playing in September as well. So we have National Night Out, which is, our event, meaning our event is the foundation event. So we sponsor that. So we pay for the entertainment, and then Duke Energy pays for the stage. But yes, they're booked, but they can be canceled without any penalties.
Any additional comment from council? Thank you, Councilperson Davitt.
Mandy has a hand up.
Mandy, I see you there. Sorry.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
I was just wondering, what if we just, instead of canceling, if we're not comfortable with that, since we've already put out a mask mandate anyway for things in the town, what if we just have everybody mask up instead of canceling? I mean, I'm for the side of caution, but I also know how much logistics are and everything, and I hate to be, cancel something that everybody's been looking forward to if we could do it safely. So, but just throwing that out there, if we just mask everybody up, would that be safe enough?
Logistic wise, it's pretty much an event that runs itself. We've been doing it for, I think, over 6 years now. And all we do is we have Mark Baratelli from the Daily City just contact the food trucks and let them know, number one, he finds out the availability, and then he selects those trucks to be in that night, depending upon what type of, mix and match of trucks are available that night. You don't want 5 or 6 barbecue trucks at one time. So he tries to mix them up a little bit. But again, it's pretty much a, easy running operation. We have canceled before last minute due to inclement weather. But again, this is up to town council. If you want us to, with requiring masks, again, it comes to enforcement. I know Chief is in a class right now, so he's not gonna be able to comment on that, but we can ask people who are not masked up to leave the premises or the event.
I think the enforcement issue is pretty much null and void. It would have to be a voluntary thing at this juncture for the most part. I mean, it's just, so if we decide to go with a mask request, that's an option we can talk about. Any further comment? Andy, you have anything? Chris, I see Councilman Martinez just joined us. Thank you, Bill. How are you?
Yeah, I'm just curious. It looked like there was really no information that was gathered at the Wednesday mayor's meeting, updates in regards to what whether it be municipalities or private organizations are doing for outdoor events that are scheduled in the short term here. Is that correct?
I've not seen or heard a whole lot regarding other municipalities at this point. I think that everyone is probably thinking, having those initial discussions just like we did the last time in terms of how do you handle it, what do you do, who's going to be the first one to dip a toe. I mean, basically, you've got the parks are certainly being responsive, the hospitals are certainly being responsive. I think those are the big movers that I've seen this last week since our last meeting.
Yeah, just a clarification on the parks. I mean, the only responsive measures they've taken is team members wearing masks inside facilities, and then down at Disney, they're requiring unvaccinated folks to wear a mask down there. In addition, there's several instances where concert venues are still ongoing. I heard a story this morning where there was a poll taken as to whether individuals wanted to go to a concert, and I guess it's driving a lot of private party concert ticket sales. But they're leaving it up to the individual attendees as to whether they wanted to go. So just a few points from around the area on different venues.
Disney's not, Tony, Disney's not all indoor masks for all folks. That's what I thought I read. No, I think Universal is different though.
I believe team members wear them all the time. Everybody wears them indoor. Universal is team members indoor, highly recommended for visitors. And there's been, to my knowledge, no change in attendance numbers for either park.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Councilperson Williams, Sapper, Martini. Going once, going twice.
I'm sorry, Mayor. What do we? Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, I apologize.
Logging on for some reason.
Hey, I know we all had some problems tonight, so we're discussing food truck. We had all agreed that we would discuss food truck after our last meeting when we had some new numbers here in terms of COVID. That thing that none of us really want to be here talking about, but here we are. So
I know Metro West canceled their food trucks last week under the guise of bad weather, but but who knows? This may have had some impact as well.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I really want to see it go forward, but I'm very happy to let's push this out to September. August is so hot anyways, and it's always a roll of the dice whether it's going to rain hard. So I don't have a problem with, let's push this to September. We get better idea what the numbers actually are looking like. We've just got too many what ifs right now.
I agree, and we don't want to be known as a super spreader right before school starts. Because that's coming up as well.
That's
okay.
Next week.
Until September.
School starts in less than a week.
Yeah, it does. It starts very early this year. So
yes.
Yeah, listen, it's not do or die for us. This is a luxury in terms of, a fun event that I know a lot of us would like to have and a lot of us would like to participate in. But I also don't know if we have plotted a cautious and conservative path throughout all of this. I don't want to be the most conservative. I don't want to be the least. So I think we've been careful, kind of the middle of the road. I think that things they're not going to look better over the next several weeks. That's for sure. We know that that's just how this works. If you want to turn it around, it takes some time. So the good news is they're increased vaccination rates. They're setting up more testing and more vaccination. So, and there definitely seems to be demand for both. But it continues to, we haven't put it down, that's for sure. And I know that's really disheartening to all of us. So, all right. My gut is to take a pass. The world doesn't stop if we don't have food trucks. I'm not really interested in helping to make anybody sick, even if it's, completely just accidental and unintentional. And everybody tries to avoid it. It's just very hard. It's not like the market, you can kind of stroll through, there's a lot more room and spacing, and you're not eating right then and there. So, thank you, Robert. I see your note about the mobile vaccination unit. That makes me happy. We'll have that actually here in town in terms of an opportunity if those individuals would like to have easy access to vaccinations. That'll be here on Friday morning. So that's my gut, unless somebody super strongly objects.
I agree, Mayor. I think our first food trucks back, where people are going to be standing toe to toe in line, and with other folks weaving through between them. So it's going to be close quarters. So I agree, holding off at least till September.
Yeah,
I reluctantly agree as well. It's just unfortunate that unvaccinated folks are driving the behavior of the vaccinated at this point.
Hey, it's all frustrating. I don't want to get into the whole deal one way or another, but I do know that if we don't change course, we're going to be dealing with this for a lot longer. And it's my hope that, unless folks have a very, very, important and serious aversion to the vaccination, that we can get individuals that don't have that vaccinated. I think realistically, we're going to have to get to 75 or 80% to make that happen. So the 20% of individuals who, really have good reason and don't want to be vaccinated, we can cover for that. But right now, that is not what's happening. And, so we'll see how this plays out, but it certainly is not good. I'm not happy to be back where we're at right now. That's for sure. We're really no better off than where we were a year ago, which is pretty frustrating. All right, I think I'll leave that there. I think I've got the feel from council, and I thank you guys for all your input. I know it's tough to lead, so we will take that from there. Robert, I think we can let staff know that we'll take a pause and we will review this again for the September event as well.
Yes, sir.
Robert, are we going to push to try to get people into Windermere for that vaccine truck? Is the paper aware, or how are we handling it, or is it just going to be nonchalantly just sitting there?
Well, now with the COVID numbers, again, hopefully, I'm just texted Diane just to reconfirm our confirmation that it's going to be there this Friday. And then once I get the reconfirmation that it's going to be here this Friday, we're definitely going to put it out there as much as possible.
Absolutely. And let's make it as widely spread. And that's in partnership with our county commissioner. So we'll continue to give as many of those opportunities as possible for those individuals who want to take advantage.
Yeah, we received the call probably about Tuesday last week, I think it was. And that was before, again, the executive order and all of this. So, you know, I'm not sure if they're scrambling to get to different locations, but we'll make sure that we reconfirm our confirmation for this Friday.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Again, not what we want to be talking about, but we'll take a safe path forward. All right. Next up is item 2B, and that is Fernwood Park access and some planning options. Robert, I don't know if you want to give the executive summary on the cameras and then kind of tee up what, you know, any input that you might have on the park itself, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, the executive summary.
And then we'll allow everyone that's joined us to provide some input before we get going as well. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, the executive summary was the wrong executive summary. Again, I've been trying to communicate via, you know, the home office while, you know, I'm taking care of my mother-in-law and whatnot. The executive summary that was attached had to do with the security cameras. That was already approved by town council, so it was a retro approval. But what was discussed at the council meeting was, you know, whether or not to convert Fernwood Park into a boat ramp. And that would just be done by just a resolution. And I'll go through the presentation and explain exactly what that would do and how that would take place and what changes that would create. But that was the intent of tonight. Parks and Recreation did review this. They did make a recommendation to convert it from a park to a boat ramp. And if you allow me, I can go through the presentation and answer questions after the fact.
Yes, that would be good. Thank you, Robert.
All right. And most of the people that are attending tonight live in close proximity to the park. The usual suspects, especially when it comes to Butler and 7th. So we have the Willards, we have Stroop, again, happy birthday, Millers, Anime Clontz, and the Willards and Clontz, they live right adjacent to Fernwood Park. So I'm sure they're going to have some comments relative to what we're talking about tonight. But again, this is the workshop on August 2nd, 2021. A little bit of the background, and I apologize again because I'm trying to be administrator of the participants and doing the presentation at the same time. We know that it's in between Butler and 7th. It's at the curve there. The entrance is a horseshoe shape with a retention area on the north side and FWC, OCSO, and the Windermere PD boathouse on the south side. So there's really not a lot of room, and it's mostly just a boat ramp anyway. And you can see, again, small pictures, and right here, again, you can see my old car, but again, we know it's just horseshoe shape. And again, here's the 45% plans that were approved by council at the last town council meeting, which shows you the configuration of the park itself. And I want to remind you too, that this is a approved hauling and debris site for natural disasters. We have 2 locations that have been approved by DEP. This is one of them. The location that we dumped, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor or not, is located in this area right here. So we want to make sure that that's always clear. And the reason that we have a dump site in this location is based on the fact that, again, with our tree canopy, we can't have a claw truck coming by picking up all the debris. So what we do is we have Dobsons chop up the debris, and then they haul it to this site, and then Rain or Shine picks it up with their big claw truck, and then they haul it away. The secondary site is Windermere Recreation Center, where the big parking lot is. And that's typically where our staging site is in case there's a storm that's on its way. And again, with Fernwood Park, here's the boathouse where we store FWC, OCSO, and Windermere PD. over here, which is planned to be a parking lot for those emergency vehicles or those vehicles that have to be over here. And again, if there's an emergency, the emergency vehicles are just going to line up around this circle driveway here. We do plan for a vegetated swale within the actual roundabout, if you would want to call it. And then with an elongated swale system over here to the north, this is where Anime Clance lives. Here's where the Willards live. And the Willards do have an access in the back over here. And then a vegetated swale that would go along the lake shore right here. Does this have an impact on Parks and Recreation's intent on building a boardwalk in this area? Yes. They understand that, and they know that they're going to have to revisit that discussion later on. But what's proposed tonight is just to talk about this area here, which again is mostly just a boat ramp and not used for other recreational activities, except for maybe fishing or just sightseeing. So a lot of the issues that we've seen and we all have come to know about since I've been here since 2011, we've been addressing this issue, is it's formerly called Egret Island, but it's known by everybody else as Bird Island. Noise, the violence, the drinking, the drugs, the trespassing, the illegal commercial activities where you have a boat picking up people off the dock and bringing them over to Bird Island or for sightseeing. You also have the jet ski pickups for $5 a person, and then the residents or non-residents utilizing the boat ramps. And then also other issues, which I really don't want to get into, but if the neighbors want to bring them up, they can. But it has to do with, unruly people after they've been drinking all day and arriving at Fernwood Park. So a little history and a little information about Egret Island / Bird Island. It's 20 acres naturally vegetated island located along the eastern side of Lake Butler. It's got 4,000 feet of natural shoreline, but it's become, again, a hotspot on the Butler chain to rest, party, or stop, to appreciate nature and its richness of wildlife. Unfortunately, in recent years, it's become a center for law enforcement activity relative to the large, noisy congregation of boaters, underage drinkers, fights, and different types of disorderly behavior. This has resulted in numerous arrests, increased litter, fires, and destruction of trees and vegetation with Egret Island within the Egret Island Preservation Area. I know that we've had several cleanup activities over at the island, and I think a lot of you can attest for what type of trash is picked up on the island. Most of the stuff that is in this right here is just history about it, who owns it, that was transferred to the Audubon Society back in 1958. So the Audubon Society actually operates the island. Now, do they do cleanups or anything like that? No, they don't. They have no maintenance whatsoever on that island. So they just pretty much count on residents or organizations to do cleanups and so on and so forth. But they pretty much are hands off at this point. They do work with us when we do ask them to, but they mostly say, okay, we'll just coordinate with Orange County or coordinate with Florida Wildlife Commission. The last real progress that was made, if you want to call it progress, was putting up the no trespassing signs. That was the biggest step that's been since I've been town manager in Windermere, from the Audubon Society and from Orange County. But we all know on a daily basis and on a weekly basis, those things are just ignored. Again, Bird Island is a wildlife conservation / bird sanctuary. A lot of people don't really understand that. And they do believe that it's a park, which again creates an issue where they think they can walk on it, they can moor their boats onto it, and they can set up DJ booths, they can do body painting, they can set up bars, and they can set up tents, and that's actually not allowed. And all of you have seen videos, all of you have seen pictures, all of you actually have seen it live. But if you haven't, here's some of the pictures that we were able to gather. And again, we have a repository not only of Bird Island issues relative to the people being on there, but we also have a repository in order for us to establish or help establish the critical wildlife area, which we'll talk about as well. But again, you can see the jet skis. They always have a rally once a year. On a Sunday or a Saturday, it's always packed. And you can see on the far right, again, well, you might not see, but that's the shallows. That's most of the island is underwater most of the time of the year. and they use those shallows in order to wade. And that's what the intent of the swim area is to push that back as far as possible to discourage people from wading in the water and hopefully discourage them from partying over at the island. The question that we always get is, we get calls every weekend. I get text messages all the time, noise complaints, partying, so on and so forth at Bird Island. Do we have jurisdiction? No. That jurisdiction is with Orange County Sheriff's Office, and that's through FWC. And so we have no jurisdiction past the normal high water elevation. So once you get pretty much past that boat ramp, that's all Orange County and FWC. FWC has, I would say, 9 officers, if that, for 6 or 7 counties that they have to monitor. We try to work with them as much as we can on different details, whether it's a Father's Day weekend, Easter weekend, really popular weekends. We make sure that we coordinate with them and OCSO. But again, they're constrained as much as we are with the amount of staffing. Now, OCSO, we try to work with them as well. And sometimes we have a lot of issues with enforceability of some of the noise complaints and some of the other stuff that we have out there. So OCSO and FWC have jurisdiction on the lake. And again, with the amount of boaters, when we talk to FWC officers, they'll see 40 boats out there and they'll get a noise complaint. And they're pretty much like, which one? And the minute they drive up, the noise goes down. They can't figure out which boat it is. The minute they leave, the noise goes up. So it's hard for them to enforce. And again, they do the best that they can with the limited resources that they have under the legal constraints that they have as well. So they're having a really difficult time enforcing what's currently in place right now. So what has the town done since 2014? Well, again, we've worked with the Windermere Navigation Board. If you're not aware, in your tax bill, you'll see an MSTU that sends money to this board. And what this board does is make recommendations to Orange County to spend money on protecting the lakes and treating the lakes. So this money is there for them to spend. And what they have done is dedicated some of that money for off-duty patrols for the Windermere Police Department to have an off-duty officer out there on a weekend basis, pretty much during the busy months. So we have that ongoing, and we'll provide reports as requested to town council. I'll text chief later on tonight, and he can get that out to you later on tonight as well. But again, we have a patrol out there every single weekend, and we try to get reserves or other off-duty officers out there that need the time, especially on big weekends, to make sure that we have a presence. And again, presence will deter some of the hopefully bad behavior that's going on out there. In addition to that, we made our alcohol restrictions more strict. We can now do cooler checks. We have the appropriate signage. We have the appropriate ordinances in place. So somebody comes in and they are, carrying a cooler, we can do a cooler check. Before we couldn't do that, or just send them away. We adopted the same noise ordinance as the county, which was more strict, but again, it's hard to enforce. We've created more strict boat pass rules for the residents. So if they're, handing out their key or trying to sell their key to somebody and they're caught, then they're going to be suspended, or they're going to be, we'll take away their right to have that key for a year from the date of that violation. We're installing new signage, and we're also installing currently new security cameras, and that's going to have a live stream. We're working with Spectrum. It's going to take about 45 days or less to get that internet out there. But we have all the equipment, everything ready to go. And so, chief or myself or any of the officers that are on duty can go ahead and tap into that camera and see what's going on in real time. In addition to that, we can set it to where we have alerts where when people are out there past the time that it's supposed to be, it'll send us a text alert saying that somebody's out there, and then we'll send a patrol unit out to that location. But again, it gives us more presence and more observation of what's going on. Also, it's recorded. So if somebody's out there doing something inappropriate, then we have also license plate readers. So we'll be able to take a snapshot of their car and do trespass warnings. Same with anybody that we capture on video doing something that's not appropriate. We have been more aggressive when it comes to no trespass warnings, which means, again, we have to issue a trespass warning, give them the notice saying, listen, if you come back, you can be arrested. And we have done arrests in the past, especially with Lake Street Park. So that's something that we've been getting more proactive on in the last couple of years. But we're also doing stuff that with Orange County in conjunction with them on creating pretty much two major things in order to push people away from that area where they're able to wade and they're able to moor and they're able to set up their stuff so they can just party and drink all day. The first thing is creating a swim area / no wake zone. As you can see, I talked to Liz Johnson as early as this morning to try to get an update on the schedule. We were hoping that it'd be more aggressive and actually adopted already and permit sent, but they're not going to be able to do that until April of next year. And that's when the permit's actually going to be sent in order for them to create that swim area and the no wake zone. So with the no wake zone, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So yes, the boats are going slower in that area, but as you know, sound travels, and when you have a boat going slower, it's going to create more noise for those people that have to listen to it more of a time. But again, with the amount of incidents we've had out there with jet skis and drownings and deaths, that's definitely going to help. And with the no swim area, it pushes everybody back. So they're not able to, again, wade in the water, moor in the water, or do anything like that. I say no swim area, but a swim area. But again, they have to swim back and forth or bring a cooler or something like that. It's more of a deterrent than anything else. We'll get into that. But as you can see here, the swim area is going to be between 45 feet to 90 feet in width and 631 feet in length along the northwestern shore of the island, which is the big party spot. The proposed no wake zone is approximately 680 feet in length and is proposed for the location between the northeast side of the island extending to the Lake Butler shoreline. So again, these are two actions that are trying to deter people from coming to the island to not only protect the wildlife on there, but also protect the island itself and the people that come just to try to enjoy the lakes and the chain itself. The second thing they're trying to create is a wildlife or critical wildlife area, or a CWA. So it's just not only protecting people from getting injured or drowning or anything like that, but also making sure that they protect what is actually a bird sanctuary. So what a critical wildlife area is documented here, and this will be available on the website and through the YouTube channel. But it's an important tool to conserve, again, those birds and protected species that are on the island. And again, it creates more of a buffer so people that are within that buffer can be cited, trespassed, or arrested. So there's two concurrent methods going on right now. Right now, the CWA isn't really moving forward because, again, we have to get the documentation. And you can see that through this process, it's really meticulous, and it will take a lot of time to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. So you have to document the species that are on there. You have to show, how the CWA is going to protect those species, the various species that are on that island, and how people are impacting that, with their proximity as far as the no trespassing onto the island itself. So we're counting on Orange County to create the swim zone first and the no wake zone. And then after that, you'll probably look at them moving a lot faster and hopefully more streamlined to get the CWA established. So again, they're currently working on the CWA, but it hasn't really gone anywhere. So I don't want to give you any false hope that it's going to be a year or maybe 2 years. It's something that takes a long time for them to establish. So that brings us up to, okay, and understanding what Orange County has done or is doing, and understanding what issues that we've had in the past, and what we have done incrementally to hopefully prevent some of the activities that have been occurring at the island. Because Fernwood, again, you can't talk about Fernwood unless you're talking about Bird Island, is now taking another step. The next step would be to designate this park as an actual boat ramp. And you might say, well, how does that help? Everybody was talking about, okay, well, we used to enforce the no parking rules. You had to have a boat pass in order to be at the pools or the park. But the problem is it's a public park, and it's land use as a public park. It's used as a public park, even though it is a boat ramp. So you'd fight the ticket and then you would lose. It's kind of like is an unenforceable rule, just like our residents only traffic during the hours of X, Y, and Z. Those were unenforceable and they were illegal. So we couldn't enforce that ordinance because it is still designated as a public park. Now you issue it or you change that ordinance by resolution or the designation to a boat ramp. Now you can enforce it because you are required to have a boat pass in order to have a boat ramp key. So then you can go ahead and enforce that and do no parking unless you have that P or the pass, or you can be towed, or we can ticket you, so on and so forth. And other things that we've talked about with some of the residents through our Butler Basin areas is not only can we designate parking there, because again, it's usually free for all when you go to parking out there. What we do is just put railroad ties out there to have designated parking for a certain amount of people. So you can limit it, you can't get that many cars out there, especially with the detention areas that we're gonna put out there anyway. There's no trailer parking out there no matter what. But we would also, again, once you move that gate or you create that no parking zone, then people would just go ahead and park on the right of ways on 7th and on Butler. So what we would do is we, again, would push people further out as far as the parking issues, and we would do no parking on the weekends and see how that works. Unless, they have prior approval by the town manager. So if somebody that lives on Second Avenue, if somebody lives on 7th or if somebody lives on Butler and they have a graduation, they have a party or something like that, all they would have to do is send me an email and I can notify Public Works and the police department, hey, listen, they have authorization to do this at this time, and everything is fine. But again, the whole intent of this is to keep pushing and pushing and being more of a deterrent than anything else for people going to that, non-residents going to that boat ramp. Now, does this prevent residents from going to that area? No, we would have a gate that would allow access to it so people can still use the little pier that's out there. They can, go enjoy, again, passive recreation if they're bird watchers, if they want to see the lakes itself. Again, we are among the lakes, but there's really not that many areas where we can actually enjoy the lakes. And if we have special events like the Christmas parade or fireworks on July 4th, we would open up that gate and let spectators in. But again, we would have an increased law enforcement presence at those times and at those dates. So will this, what I've just talked about, cure the issue? I forgot to mention too, we would put up wrought iron fencing along the boundaries as well to curtail some of the issues that some of the neighbors are dealing with. Again, more of a deterrent than anything else. Is it going to stop everything? No. But it's a step in the right direction, as I put on here. The more enforcement we can place at the park, the more of a deterrent it will be for all the troublemakers. You start, again, creating that zone farther and farther away, and they keep pushing it somewhere else, then they're finally going to say, okay, you know what, enough's enough. Let's just find somewhere else to go. Where the other location is still yet to be determined. But again, restricting the parking, we would restrict it all the way up. So the only park or places that they would be able to park would be at 5th and Forest at the public parking, which again is a nice little walk, and the same thing over at the town facilities, which also houses the Windermere Police Department. So again, concurrently, Orange County is looking to do the swim area and the no-wake zone, as well as the critical wildlife area. As we know, as you as elected officials and us as staff, how much we always have to do that catch-22. We had the same issue with the cut-through traffic. How much pain do we want to put on our residents, for troublemakers or people that are from outside of our jurisdiction? So we're trying to create something that may be a little painful for the residents, but at least, you know, it's something that protects the quiet enjoyment of the not only the surrounding neighbors, but protects, you know, the boat ramp itself and the residents that want to enjoy the actual park, and or could be a boat ramp. So again, I've added in, you know, some of the slides that were from the Butler Basin areas, where you can see it's pretty much constrained anyway relative to parking, and we would possibly move the gate closer to this area over here. And this just shows 7th Avenue. Again, we would restrict all the parking, so it would be required to park all the way up by town facilities, which is pretty much a nice little walk for somebody if they're going to use it as a jump off point. So again, you're not going to eliminate the issue, but you're making it harder for the nefarious activities, the troublemakers to be out there, by pushing them further and further out, or just making it harder for them to access the site. So with this, I'll be more than happy to take any questions. And the process that it would be is simply just passing a resolution by the town council, and it would probably have to be done at the September meeting, and designate it as a boat ramp. And we would go ahead and order the signage, order the fencing, which I'm getting pricing on right now. And as you know, the camera system's already going in.
Thank you, Robert. We appreciate that. Council, any direct questions to this particular presentation? Chris?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm just curious if maybe there's an option of doing a keyed entry for the pedestrian entrance as opposed to going right to no parking. And just imagine that being a administrative headache on your part to approve parties and things like that. What if you're on vacation, or, you know, what if somebody just has a guest over the weekend, or, you know, or something of that nature?
If you do a keyed entrance for all the residents, then you have to give a key to all the residents, and we wouldn't be able to charge them for it because you're charging for the boat ramp, which is the boat access. You know, this is going to be a discussion that we're going to talk about with probably about Lake Street and Lake Down, is if we just created a key access, again, that's 1,600 parcels, 3,000 residents, you know, that just becomes a logistical nightmare. And people have talked about, okay, well, if you just do a keypad entry, you know, for those of you that have lived in gated communities or are familiar with gated communities, those things are usually broke more than they're operating.
Chris, do you have any further questions, sir?
No, I was just curious of the thought process with that. I mean, just kind of, I guess it just looking like a park pass as opposed to a boat ramp. I mean, anybody using that park, if you're going to use it, whether it be pedestrian entry or not, is probably going to be the purpose of using that ramp, whether it be parking the boat back and then walking back through, or somebody like myself that would, you know, drop my kayaks in there or something like that and use it to get in and out of.
Chris, was your question related more to just general usage, or related to I know there was some discussion in the presentation about, well, some people could get town manager approval for a party or something like that to have some overflow parking. Was that what it was?
Right, because I understand to not, or I guess for the regards to one, overflow parking allows on the street for residents, but I guess mainly I understand the point of not having parking on the streets, because what we are trying to do is prevent that ingress egress of the non-residents that are just trying to use the dock as a jump off to get onto the island.
Sure. I think,
and maybe that's more residents need to, you know, maybe think about that. And I'd like to hear their opinion, because that's what's going to affect them, as, you know, any weekend that they just may have somebody come over, and not everybody's driveway will fit, you know, more than 2 to 4 cars.
Right. I think what we'll do here for these purposes anyways, is we'll just get our direct questions to the presentation. Then we'll allow for some public input, and then council can go, we can go into some, if there's any various other ideas or thoughts. I know that I have some, and I suspect some other folks do as well. So, but I hear where you're going there, and I think we can talk more about that, Chris. Councilperson Davitt has his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just a couple questions, Robert. What's the delay on the Orange County designation for the swim area?
I can't answer that.
I mean, it's not something, a delay in permitting or something that we may be able to influence?
We can ask them to try to see if they can even expedite even more, but we're at the mercy of Orange County and Orange County EPD. Again, the last update I had, and I think I provided to you guys, was it showed that it would be done in July of 2021. So I'm not sure what the hiccup was or the issue was, but that's where I just received that information for the latest update was from Liz Johnson this morning. But I can definitely ask them what the hiccup is. But regardless of that, you know, that's still going to be, is that going to cure it? No, but, you know, we're trying to do what we can do in the constraints that we have. And to Mr. Sapp's point, you know, all the residents, I can tell you right now, that are in that area have my cell phone number and my email, and they let me know when they have graduations, parties, stuff like that. And again, all it takes is a text or an email, and we're able to let PD know.
Okay. And then we had discussed earlier about, I believe it was Lake Street Park, about some additional funds reimbursement. Is there any funds reimbursement required for this change to make it a boat dock?
No, we checked and we made sure that no FERDAP funds were utilized for this park. So we wouldn't have to repay any monies. Thankfully, before we actually had a FERDAP grant for this park, and thankfully we were notified in time, thank you to Mr. Willard, that if we were to use this FERDAP funds, then we would have had to open up the boat ramp to not only residents, but non-residents. So we went ahead and pulled that grant back ASAP. And that's why we have this issue separate from the Lake Street Lake Down issue. Is number one, Lake Street Lake Down doesn't have to deal with Bird Island, and number two is the FERDAP funds is something different on Lake Street and Lake Down, because FERDAP funds were used to fund some of those amenities.
Okay, thanks, Robert. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilperson Davitt. Any additional questions on the slide deck at hand there? All right, I think what we'll do at this point is I want to make sure that we have good opportunity for all those residents I know have been eagerly awaiting their moment to have this discussion. So it's an important one. So we will see if anyone wishes to speak from the public. We'll take all that input in, and then we'll work from there. And I see Mr. Willard's gone to the top of the queue. We will start with Jim. Jim, if you can give we all know where you live, but if you give your full name and address for the record, we'd appreciate it.
Certainly, Mayor. Jim Willard, 228 West 7th Avenue. My wife and I are very much in favor of the change proposed by Robert that you're discussing tonight. The boat ramp, it's always been known as a boat ramp. That's its primary function. And describing it and restricting it to that purpose, I think will go a long way toward eliminating many of the problems we've experienced there over the last few years, especially. So I think what Robert described about allowing residents to utilize the park for parking every once in a while, that has worked well in the past. I think that can continue. Providing pedestrian access is important for the residents that do go down there from time to time to sit on one of the benches or just stroll through the park. But anyway, I think it's a really big step in the right direction, and we're very much in favor of it. Thank you.
I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Willard. We appreciate your comment. I was on mute there. I see, I believe Anna Marie, you won, so you get to go first, and then Tom Stroop will be next.
Oh, hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. And Robert, thank you for so eloquently stating the various concerns that we've had over the years. So I don't think there's any need to pile on that. I just want to echo Jim Willard's sentiments of I fully support these changes. I think they will drastically eliminate some of the trouble the issues that we've had over the years with the park. As far as overflow parking, you know, I have no problem with, you know, notifying the town in advance if that's ever needed. So that's not an issue for me at all. And I'm driving, so I'm a little, I was going out a couple of times, is to, I think I heard to discourage street parking if the park cannot be parked in. Because I've brought this up before, Robert, you know, that I'm getting some type of swale on the right of way adjacent to my property. And I just want to make sure that doesn't become a free for all parking spot for people who, you know, can't otherwise park in the park. But again, I really thank you for addressing this and taking our concerns seriously and making these changes. And I fully support them.
Yeah, Anna Mae, we're trying to take baby steps when it comes to no parking on the outside and the outskirts, and that's why we took your recommendation or your brainstorming that one day about saying no parking on the weekends. You know, we can start there, and then if it becomes an issue, then we can change it to no parking full time. But again, it's hard with landscapers,
yeah,
you know,
I understand.
deliveries, so on and so forth.
Yep, I totally understand that. And again, you know, I'm willing to be flexible as we go through this process and, you know, make these changes.
Thank you, Anna Mae. Certainly appreciate all of your input, especially all of you who live so close. So, all right.
Yeah, I've been gone for 2 months, and I sat in my driveway on Saturday, and you know, most of the people down there are using the park as a jumping off, you know, spot to access Bird Island. I mean, there were some boats coming in and out, but a lot of people were using the dock. And, you know, someone was about to urinate right in front of me and then looked over and saw me and thought the better of it, but that is still occurring. So anyway, this all will help all that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stroop, I see your hand up. You can be next, sir.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for what you're doing. The only thing I want to say is that I have literally almost been in fights down there, and I've seen people hauled off dead, and everybody knows my position on it. And being in law enforcement all those years, I've seen that. I've seen what's going on. And once again, this is a good example of communication and not ignoring a problem. I've been gone for 6 weeks. It's my first summer not being here in Windermere. And you guys seem to do a lot in the last 6 weeks that I've been trying to get done for the last several years. So I think I'll just leave every summer and let you guys handle all the problems. You just come back when it's done. Great job. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate it. I also want to know who wants to fight with you, because they're probably not very smart. So any additional input from the public? I did see a note. I see a note from the Millers, who are kind of nodding in the affirmative, and we appreciate you guys being on the call. And then also I see a note from the Tincheliers as well, doing the same. So I'll just make that everyone aware of that on council. So I also see, I don't see any other further comments. So unless there's any other additional further comment from the public, we'll go ahead and bring us back to council discussion.
Yeah, Mayor.
Done, we'll go ahead and go ahead, Robert. I see, are you queued up? Did you want to say something?
I know that Heather is on vacation this week, so I can maybe see if we have her proxy or somebody else that can draft the resolution, but if not, it's going to be on the September Town Council meeting.
Okay. I know that, I mean, I have a few thoughts as well. I want to hear what council has to say, but one of my thoughts, a couple of my thoughts are the fact that our parking tickets are, I think they're $10 or $15, which makes them zero deterrent. So I think that may be something that council wants to look at separate from this or in conjunction with this. I think I would also look, I certainly understand residents wanting to have that ability to park there for large events and parties and such. And one of my thoughts is, as we begin this process, we may take a temporary hiatus from that not to be difficult to those residents, but because I want to make sure that it is crystal clear what we're doing, and it shows and it's demonstrable in terms of there are no cars down there that are not exactly what we say as we begin this. And then, you know, after a few months of making that statement, kind of relax that. But that's just my thought. I just want us to make sure as we make these, they're pretty decent sized changes. I want to make sure that we're consistent and that it is really a clear message that that's what we're doing. And again, that's not to make it more difficult for residents. It's to really show what we're doing in terms of those individuals who may be tempted to try to kind of thwart that or won't see the difference or the change. So that was a couple of my thoughts. And maybe even some tow away signage if that's what we need to do. So those are a couple of my thoughts. Other than that, I'm in full agreement. We can potentially put a little extra pressure on the county, but we've not been super successful with that in the past, but it doesn't mean we won't continue to try. So for sure, I would like to see that. And there's, you know, there's people on the call too that can add to that pressure. And sometimes that's even better than hearing from people they hear from all the time. So I see Councilperson David with the hand up. Go ahead, Councilperson David.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody for taking this in consideration because I've gotten a lot of calls and met a lot of residents down there, and I empathize with them, and I just appreciate the council even considering this. And Robert, thank you for all your work putting all this together. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilperson Martini, thank you for your comments. Councilperson David. Councilperson Martini, go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Robert and staff and all the residents for your input. I know it's it's difficult to pick up that phone every time there's a big issue and you feel like you're maybe not getting anywhere, but I think we're getting somewhere with this resolution. I support this, and I think it's you know, it's not something new. I think we're taking back what we had before as far as you know, enjoyment of these residents' properties and the ability to just, you know, have a quiet weekend once in a while. I think it's you know, I appreciate everything Robert's doing, like with the cameras and all the other measures that we're putting in place. And I think we put all this together in conjunction with what Orange County is proposing, and I think it'll make a big impact. I think it's good that we would, you know, there's a little bit of lag time between what we're proposing to do and what Orange County is proposing to do, because I think once they establish that swim area, it's going to make the whole shuttle, $5 shuttle thing more attractive to people, because they'll be like, well, I can't park my boat there. I might as well just take a shuttle. And I think that would increase the desire for the shuttle activity. So if we can shut off that, that access before Orange County does the swim area, it would be to our benefit. So, and I think, you know, a lot of what drives the traffic there is social media. We've seen that, you know, at Lake Street Park and also at Fernwood. So I think social media will start to work in reverse. You know, once people figure out how difficult it is or how far you have to walk to get there, you know, the word will get out there as well. So thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you, Councilperson Martini. One of the other things I was considering is that we may need to, you know, as part of the reason why I want to keep this kind of simple and strict is because my guess is that we will have push to other areas for drop off. And I want to make sure that we're able to be out in front of that as well, because I don't want to see that happen. You know, just, you know, again, just being realistic, people are crafty. So we want to make sure we've got everything lined up to deal with that. Any additional comments, thoughts, ideas from council? Chris, I see your hand up there. Actually, yeah, not a virtual hand, a real one.
How fluid the it can be with the no parking signage, you know, just meaning if we have to be flexible, move some things around, make some changes, you know, there may be a little bit of whack-a-mole that goes on. You know, we already see with Lake Street, they will park a couple blocks away and do the walk. You know, is it just a town council vote? Can it be done administratively? You know, what does that look like if that needs to happen?
I mean, I would anticipate it would be done administratively. I don't think we've gotten away from voting on things like that. I guess what I was proposing was not to have council look at those individual events, but just to say, like, put a moratorium on that sort of thing for a short period of time while we enact what we're doing. So it's really crystal clear, the changes, so they're evident and visual, hoping that sets it in stone, so to speak. So then we can then, work with those residents on those individual needs. I'm just trying to, again, it's not to make it painful. It's just to make it crystal clear. So no one comes back and says, oh, I can't tell the difference, or also we are making sure that we get a good picture of what's occurring. So we can be, so we can tweak and adjust as need be as we go.
Yeah, just like with the new speed limit sign or anything like that, we would put the orange flags on it and give a 30-day window. And the same thing with the cut-through traffic. We gave out warnings for the first, I think, couple of weeks before we actually started giving out tickets, so people are aware of the change. And to your point, Councilmember Sapp, it is somewhat playing whack-a-mole. But again, we have to take baby steps to figure out how to solve the big issue.
Additional comments from council, concerns, questions?
Yeah, just one other comment. I would be open to looking at our fees, that we're charging for, no parking or anything that hasn't been looked at in that manner in quite some time. Seems like it should be at least $30. That's what, a lot of them are.
I mean, I just know whenever I go somewhere and the parking fee is $15, that's cheaper than parking most of the time. So, you'll roll the dice. If it's significant, it'll make you think about it a little bit more. But
I can tell you that I've been to a Florida Gator game and paid the parking ticket because it was cheaper than the actual fee to park in a private lot.
For sure, man. I mean, it's just human nature, right? I'm just trying to, make sure that if we're going to make these moves, that we make it as intelligently as we can and as consistently as we can, so it is easily enforceable. Because one of the things that I always worry about is enforceability for these things. We have to, I don't want our officers to be out there having to enforce difficult rules. If they're crystal clear, they're much easier to enforce. And if the penalties sting enough, people will get the message. And to be frank, we've been pretty kind and probably way more than patient. So, this is not a situation where it's going to cure itself. I think we all agree on that. So, it's just something to consider. So, all right. Let's see. I don't think we missed. I think we have everybody. I saw Andy nodding his head.
Yeah, I'm good.
Councilperson Davitt, you're good. Are you good,
I'm
sir?
Good.
Okay. And I did know Chris is good, and Councilperson David is good, and Councilperson Martini. All right. So I mean, I think that staff, have we given you good enough direction?
Absolutely. And again, I can't take credit for most of this. This is mostly driven by the residents themselves over the past several years, brainstorming on how to correct this issue. And it's just a matter of us finding the right time and formulating the right plan.
I have one clarifying question. When we talk about a gate at the park boundary, are we planning to add an additional gate at the park boundary and leave the gate at the boat ramp?
No, it'd be one or the other.
See, I'm so mean. I do too.
but again, it's how much pain do you want to inflict on your own residents, because they would have to get out twice, and it's
I get
owning a boat in the past. I've had to deal with that sometimes. So
no, it's no fun at all. So and then we will probably have to make the boat passes a little more robust and not easily duplicated. So I guess the next. So just give me an idea, council, whether there is any interest in considering a change of ordinance for the parking fee itself.
Absolutely. It needs to go up. Handicap is $199. I'm in favor of that.
I'd agree with that as well.
Okay. Any objections, council? All right. All right, so I think we have clear direction moving forward for staff. Again, we appreciate all the input from all the residents and council, as well as staff and Parks and Rec as well. So this is much better when we're all on the same page. It helps us move in the right direction much more quickly. I also think once we take these actions, we can go ahead and show these things to the county commission, and maybe that will help us as well. So I know, you know, this is not going to get any better, I'm afraid. So we can do our part, and I think at least make it a lot more bearable for those individuals that live adjacent to the boat ramp. That does it for our agenda. Anything else for the good of the order? I've got a couple things on my list. I did see, I saw an email just before the meeting from Deputy Chief Treadwell regarding the 2021 Law Enforcement Officer State of Florida Memorial in Tallahassee, September 18th through the 19th. New council members especially, if you have not taken the opportunity to go to see and participate in that event, I cannot tell you how important it is when you have responsibility for a police department. I think it is really, really important for everyone to see and understand the importance of equipping our officers correctly with training, with gear, and all things necessary to do their job. It just changes the way you think about that responsibility. And, you know, some of us were on council when Officer German was killed, and nothing will change the way you think more than that, I promise you. So if you have the opportunity to take a day and a half and do that, I cannot recommend it enough. September 11th is coming up. We always try to have a memorial. I am going to plan a memorial for 9/11 on that exact day, on 9/11. It's a Saturday. We'll do it at 8:30 in the morning. We will closely monitor the COVID situation and how we want to deal with that. But I would like us to be able to do something, even if it's very small and very distanced. But again, we'll monitor that, and you guys can keep me to task on making sure that we are consistent with all that we do. Anything else? This
is the 20th year since that occurred, Mayor. So I think I think it's important to have that. It
is, and you know, thank you, Councilman Martini. And again, we're just going to be real careful and sensitive about how we handle it. But I do think it's important as well. But we'll be careful and cautious. And listen, if something changes, then we'll get guidance from you guys, and we'll be smart. Anything else from staff or any other council for the good of the order? All right, seeing none, it was a productive meeting. We are adjourned at 7:07 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks all.